You know what? Rereading this issue, I had a bit of an epiphany. The Sonic franchise is weird. I know, sounds kind of obvious when you consider the fact that the entire series centers around a blue anthropomorphic hedgehog who can run at supersonic speeds fighting a fat man with a fabulous mustache who powers robots by shoving little animals into them. That's weird in and of itself, this is true. But beyond the basic premise, the series has just gotten weirder as it's gone on. I mean, this is a series that has featured tiny planets with time travel, ancient water gods, aliens, both the demonic and dystopic and cutesy and cuddly variety, space stations of various sizes and destructibility, and a fox with two tails. Why do I bring this up? Well, this is an issue of the comic series that I can only really describe as being just plain weird. I can't call it good, but I don't really think it's bad either, nor is it boring. It's just weird. Or at least one of the stories is weird. We'll get into it shortly. The cover is actually pretty great, showing us just how wonderfully subtle of a villain Robotnik can be. We see him standing front and center in front of a beautifully detailed dystopia while he's wearing a big bright button on his chest that says, "I love to pollute." It's actually a really great visual, and the attention to detail is pretty nice. We open to our first story, Rockin' the Bot. Sonic's dashing through the rain, able to zigzag around the water thanks to his super speed. I think the fact that he's a 2D image in the comic book also helps, but that's just me. Sonic comes across a frog trapped under a log just as a mudslide is about to smother him. Sonic manages to save him, pulling him out just as the mud tumbles down, trapping Sonic from the waist down. The frog, of course, is ecstatic. "You saved my life, Mr. Hedgehog! You must be a magical being like me!" Sonic, of course, thinks that the little frog's brain was scrambled by the near-death experience and doesn't take him seriously, even when he summons 3 magic stones from the sky. Sonic basically just blows him off as he explains that each stone possesses a special power that lasts a few moments, jumping really high, becoming super elastic, and becoming super strong. As the frog bounces off, Sonic is less than impressed. "At least he didn't ask me to kiss him and turn him into a prince." And I'm sure there's already a slash fic all about that potential outcome. Sonic dashes off, stating that he'll just give the stones to Tails as good luck charms or something. Nice to know Sonic's not above re-gifting things he doesn't want. A few days later, according to the caption, the Freedom Fighters are all piled into Rotor's new prototype Land Rover for a test ride. Why all of them need to be there for this is up to interpretation. One would think that it would be safer and more practical to just have 1 or 2 test pilots. And of course they are almost immediately spotted on radar by Robotnik and Snively. While Snively insists they could just swoop down and capture them, Robotnik is never one to make anything too easy for himself. "Don't be such a blithering bag of boredom, Snively. Let's first have a little fun in my new Beetlebot."
3 typical average kids inside a haunted mansion. Just by chance, Frida goes to make them Beetleborgs.
That's Beetlebot, not Beetleborg. Anyway, Robotnik and Snively try to literally drop in on the Freedom Fighters, and it takes them a whole panel to suss out just what's going on as the robot takes its time in falling on top of them. Robotnik opens fire on them, destroying their rover as they all bail out and start to tumble down the edge of a cliff. Cornered at the bottom by the Beetlebot, Sonic immediately seems to think that their only hope of escape are the magic stones the frog gave him. Hoping that they really are magic, he takes them back from Tails, but thanks to him not listening when the frog was explaining, he can't recall which stone holds which power. Hoping for super strength, he uses the red stone just as Robotnik lobs a giant boulder at them. Sonic stands under it, ready to catch it, only to literally go splat in a panel that is so glorious, it deserves this sound effect. Sonic is, of course, unharmed because the stone he chose gave his body super elasticity. Robotnik is, of course, miffed that a direct hit against the hedgehog didn't actually kill him, and instead decides to take the more direct approach, herding the Freedom Fighters into a corner to try and grab them all up at once. Sonic activates the yellow stone, once again hoping for super strength, and proceeds to launch himself high into the air. Yep, he got the stone that allows for super high jumping. After crash landing, Sonic deduces, through process of elimination, that the last stone is the one he wanted and activates the super strength ability. Robotnik, the other freedom fighters in the grip of his Beetlebot, begins to lift off, but Sonic has a plan. He dashes around, grabbing a big flat slab of rock and a giant fallen tree, creating a makeshift bug swatter. He smacks Robotnik right out of the sky, sending him right back down to the ground. The other freedom fighters are apparently just fine despite the rather steep fall they had. This whole situation, though, causes Sonic to realize that the frog he'd saved before really was magical. And so the story ends with Rotor and Sally both concerned over Sonic's mental health as he spends all his time down by the pond, talking to frogs, attempting to find the one he'd saved before, hoping for more magic stones. The second story is, unfortunately, several pages of nonsense filler. Not even the good kind, where it's semi-amusing. All the freedom fighters are gathered around Rotor's door, as he's been shut in for a long time working on something or other. And for the next few pages, we just get them all talking about what it could be and pointing out how most of his past inventions haven't really worked out in their favor before, such as the carbonated milkshake, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a can, and the, universal Framistat. They must sell those in the same store where you can buy all those things you see in the Grinch's Christmas special. But then Rotor emerges from his cave, supposedly smelling about as good as a hardcore League of Legends player. And he reveals his master invention to them. It's a thermos, trademark. It keeps hot stuff hot and cold stuff cold. And look, you can even buy Sonic-branded thermoses.
Buy all our things and stuff.
Well, that was pointless and inane. I always love it when my comics interrupted for some in-panel advertising. DC. The comic concludes on our final story of the issue, Animal Magnetism. I shudder to think what lies ahead of us. Robotnik and Snively are busy being creepers, spying on Bunny as she acts as a tree so that Tails can continue swinging on his fallen swing, instead of just finding another branch to attach it to.
Snively, did you have to show me such a disgustingly pleasant scene?
Hey, it could have been worse. I could have shown you this.
Aren't we unbearably cute? Watch me solo on jazz flute.
Of course, being reminded that Bunny is in fact half robot gives Robotnik an idea for another one of his wacky schemes. We cut over to an outdoor barbecue with the Freedom Fighters, where Rotor's cooking up a great big pot of Mobian mush. Barbecued Mobian mush. I don't have a joke for that, it's just a detail that amuses me. Bunny is approaching with a ladle in her hand before some sort of mysterious force yanks it from her hand, and then yanks her and her hand along with it. Sonic dashes off to see what the heck is going on and save his friend, and he comes across Magnabot, a giant magnet on wheels. Bunny's managed to keep herself from being pulled in completely by latching onto a nearby tree, but it's clear her grip is slipping. After getting conked on the head by a passing tin can, Sonic gets a brilliant idea. And as we all know, when Sonic gets an idea in this comic, it can't fail. Sega mandates and all that. Sonic grabs a trash can lid out of the air as it speeds by and begins taunting Robotnik with it. Robotnik orders the magnet turned towards the hedgehog, only for the magnet to end up pointed directly at Robotropolis. Apparently just turning the thing off isn't an option, and so Robotnik, Snively, and the magnet get completely buried in a giant scrap pile. Sonic and Bunny dash back to Knothole, where Rotor coats Bunny's metallic limbs in a quote-unquote special solution that renders her immune to magnets. You had that this whole time and no one thought that the half-robot rabbit could have used that earlier? And the story ends on this line from Bunny. But I never thought I'd want my magnetic personality to be unattractive. A Man Does a Woman's Voice was filmed in front of a live audience of canned laughter. This issue was pretty alright. Weird, but alright. A lot of the weirdness comes from the first story, which is nonsensical and silly and has no bearing on anything, but it's fun enough on its own and at least gets me to smile. The second story is just filler meant to sell thermoses and lunchboxes, so of course that's a bit of a negative, but the last story, while short, at least addresses an actual problem that would be prevalent with a teammate that's not 100% biological. It's a bit of a lazy hand wave, but not one that bothers me nearly as much as it probably should. If anything, the thing that bothers me most is the fact that the other freedom fighters do nothing while Sonic zooms off to save Bunny. But I guess that's to be expected at this point. It's worth a look, if only by virtue of being enjoyably weird instead of inane, stupid, or unpleasantly weird. We'll be taking a look at issue 16 next, and... Wait, what's that in the corner? Sally? Is that you? What?